Go ahead.
Hi everyone, welcome to our Facebook Live in front of our penguin habitat. My name is Karis. I'm an aviculturist here at Audubon Aquarium. You can probably guess what our exciting news is based off of where we are, but we actually had a penguin chick hatch and our colony has now grown by one. So we're very excited about this new African penguin chick, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about all that process in this Facebook Live.
And here is the new addition, nice and fluffy.
And I'm Darwin Long, Senior Aviculturist here at Audubon Aquarium. So as you see, we have a penguin chick. We are an association for zoos and aquariums breeding facility for the African black-footed penguin. We belong to the African Penguin Species Survival Plan, and they kind of give us the guidelines of how to breed our penguins and to keep genetic diversity. This is one of the most endangered penguins in the world right now. There's fewer than 20,000 breeding pairs in the wild. Now, this is the penguin habitat here, and it is, a lot goes into breeding penguins. We've had 55 here at the aquarium since we opened in 1990. This particular chick here is our 55th. We have named it Zion after the Pelicans player that's done lots for our community. We appreciate that kind of activity going on at this difficult time. So in his honor, there you go, there is Zion. Now, this particular chick is about exactly 5 weeks old, 35 days. Now, they grow really quick. It's putting on about a quarter pound a night. It weighs about 3.5 pounds right now. But as it goes on, it becomes more and more weight gained until about the 6th or 7th week, and then it kind of levels off. But the way we produce our penguins is we have a colony of adult penguins. And if you look here, this is Hubert. This is Zion's mother. And his father is Osio, standing right there on the rock. They are a brand new pair. And normally what we do is we breed our penguins. They lay eggs. We incubate the eggs, and then we raise the chicks by hand until they're 11 weeks old. Sometimes we have a new pair like Hubig and Osio. We want them to get some experience as parents so that we can actually foster out eggs or chicks to them if we need to from another pair. So this was their first time being mom and dad, and Osio got it right. He was a great dad. And Hubig had a little bit trouble catching on how to feed a chick. So about 11 days old, we noticed the weight starting to go down, and we decided to take our chick out too. We're going to do that at about 20-21 days anyways, so no big loss there. But we are hand rearing this chick until about 11 weeks old, when it will come back in and rejoin the colony as a fledgling. Now, when we initially get these penguins when they're really young, either when we're hand rearing them from hatch or from after we pulled them from the parents at about 2.5 weeks, we feed them 5 times a day. We get here at 6 in the morning. They get a special milkshake, baby formula of fish, krill, different vitamins and stuff all blended together like a smoothie. And then we actually use their morning weight to determine how much throughout the day they're going to get. We weigh them every day to track their health very carefully with our veterinarian. And we will continue that for about 2 weeks. And then at about that time, we'll give them little strips of fish along with their baby formula. At about 4 weeks, they stop wanting that baby formula. They're like, hey, I'm growing up. We're giving them chunks of fish. And very soon, this penguin, within the next few days, is going to be eating whole fish, just like the rest of our colony. They grow really rapidly. In about 6 to 7 weeks, we're going to continue to decrease the feed. He or she, because we don't know the gender yet, is down to 3 feeds a day. Eventually, it'll be down to 2 feeds a day on the same schedule as the rest of our colony when it rejoins them. Now, what we do at about 8 weeks of age, when it's starting to lose this natal down, that's when we're going to kind of let it have experience in the pool, start learning to swim and dive. That helps it shed its feathers. And when it gets this juvenile plumage, it'll be all gray on the back and all white on the front for 18 months. After 18 months, it'll turn black and white like the tuxedo penguin we are all familiar with. Now, introducing them, we'll put them in a little corral for a few days here, kind of get it used to talking to the rest of her colony, the visuals, what everybody's doing. And then we'll actually get in with waders and swim it around the pool, kind of supervise it, make sure it gets along with everybody and doesn't get stuck in any weird areas, and get in and out of the pool on its own. When it passes that test, it's officially part of our colony. Now, for a lot of people are wondering for these birds, well, does it understand who its mom and dad is? In this case, it may, because mom and dad heard its voice, and it actually heard its parents' voice.
Sweet. So a lot of people are asking some questions. So once again, the parents are Hubig and OCO. Some people are also asking random penguin questions. So Kelly V wants to know, Katie G wants to know, how long can penguins breathe underwater for?
Well, they actually don't breathe underwater. They actually can hold their breath because they are a land-breathing animal, just like all other birds. About 3 to 5 minutes has been reported in the African penguin.
And then how many miles can penguins swim a day?
On migration movements, they've been tracked to move 150 to 200 miles a day sometimes.
And then Christy J wants to know, how long is their lifespan in human care and in the wild?
That's a great question. Let me tell you a little story about Zion and her parents. If you look right up there, peeking out from behind the rocks, you can see a white-faced penguin. That is Voodoo. That is the grandmother of this chick. And Voodoo's parents were alive in this very exhibit, Ernie and Fanny, up until a few years ago. So we have 4 generations of penguins in this exhibit. Under proper human care, they could live up to 30, 35 years old. The oldest recorded African penguin in captivity is 45 years of age.
And then Jennifer K wants to know, is he gonna stay at Audubon Aquarium in the colony?
At least for the first several years, yes. But all of our penguins do have the opportunity to participate in that species survival plan, or SSP plan, to keep the genetic pot mixed up. There's only 1,500 of these worldwide in captivity. And obviously they have not been taken out of the wild for several decades. So one day, Zion might become a mother or father itself by participating in that program, and it might be called on to pair up with another pair of penguins at another zoo or aquarium. This is very common, and it's a sign of a very healthy, vibrant, captive population of an animal that's being managed in captivity.
So Jennifer G wants to know, when will we exactly know the gender?
Well, that's a great question too. We could have known within a week of its hatch. Normally what we do is when the egg hatches, we take the eggshell membrane under the shell and send it to a lab, and they will tell us if it's a boy or a girl based on the blood and the blood vessels in that membrane. Unfortunately, at this time when we tried to let Ocio and Hubig hatch their egg, by the time we got in to get the shells, there were so many small pieces, we didn't have enough material to do that, to successfully do a test. The lab could not make a determination. So what we'll probably do is wait until she grows some of her feathers in, and we'll pluck a feather follicle and send that to a lab. That'll probably be in the next few weeks.
So then, Karis, some questions for you.
Yeah.
Can you describe the feeding process that you guys do for Zion?
Yeah, so at this point, we have kind of moved on from that fish milkshake to the little fillets, and now we're moving up to bigger sized pieces of fish. Zion right now is starting to wean itself off of that formula. It's really great for hydration and nutrition, so we were trying to maintain that as long as possible. However, this is the proper age for that weaning to occur. And so we're moving forward with larger pieces of fish that is weighing up to about 10% of its mooring weight. So it's an average weight gain that we're keeping track of, and where the parents normally would elicit that response by kind of bending down, and they have that beak right there, and would feed the chick that way by regurgitation. For us, it's a little bit different. I'm not going to do that for our chick as much as I love it. So we kind of utilize our hands to mimic what would be like a beak for the parents, and you can feed through that. So we are feeding through a syringe when we have that formula, but then moving to chick eating the fish pieces. You want to start with that kind of V formation and then back off to the point where that fish presentation is all that chick needs, so it can start learning to eat like a big kid, so it can join its family out in the colony and be a productive member of penguin society.
And then a lot of people are asking if Zion can swim or walk yet.
Walking, yes. Swimming, no. So we are not waterproof just yet. We still have that downy fur. The first month of the chick's life, it's actually not able to regulate its own body temperature entirely on its own. That's why mom and dad are still sitting on the chick up until about that month time period. And once we move into that second downy layer, chick is doing a lot better at regulating that itself. And like Darwin was mentioning, we'll shed this to a nice juvenile gray on the back and white on the front with those spots that everybody knows from our African penguins. And then that waterproofing feather will allow for the penguin to start swimming and getting into the water, and will molt then its first official molt to black and white at about 18 months or so.
So how much does Zion weigh now?
This morning Zion weighed 1.64 kilograms, so we switched from weighing in grams to kilograms just to help us out with getting accurate weights and whatnot, as well as for our feeding process, since it is so determined on what our chick is able to do.
And then some other random penguin questions we're getting here. Ashley D wants to know how fast can penguins swim?
It depends on the penguin, of course. So you think about the bigger sizes, they're going to have a larger wingspan that gives them a lot more maneuverability and speed in the water. For our African penguins, it's kind of about 15 miles per hour. Of course, our kids in here aren't going to really reach that. When they're being really playful, they are zooming around. They get the zoomies just like your dogs and cats at home. However, that's more meant for getting away from a predator or trying to catch prey. The fastest penguin species that was recorded, though, is the Gentoo at about 22 miles per hour. So those are some pretty cool differences between each species.
And then Amanda B wants to know who the oldest penguin we have in our colony is.
The oldest penguin we have right now is Snapper. He turned 30, and we have two females right behind him who just turned 30 at the beginning of the year as well. We have Zelda and Dobie. And then our age range goes all the way down to Zion, but our second youngest chick then is Elmer, who's 4.
And then I know Darwin touched on this a little bit, but for those just joining us, when was Zion born?
Zion is officially, 37 days old today? So,
February 17th.
Yep, February 17th.
And the egg was laid on January 10th.
And then can you describe how often the chick has to be fed by you guys?
Yep, so when we first started, Darwin mentioned this earlier, if you're just joining in, a little recap. When we first started feeding our chick, we were doing 5 times a day. And so we were coming in at 6 o'clock in the morning and staying all the way to 6 p.m. And then had a larger fast overnight. So you break those up to specific increments throughout the day. However, as the chick gets older, it's able to eat more in one sitting. And so we're kind of spreading it out. Right now, we're down to 3 feeds a day, and chick's able to eat that 3 times a day and do really well off of that, have a good weight gain. So we're maintaining that until we go down to 2 times a day, where we're going to start mimicking then the times that our colony is eating, so that chick can eventually join that schedule.
And then when will Zion begin his first molt?
So first official molt's that black and white coloring is going to be after that juvenile coloring, and it's typically around about 18 months, but it depends on every bird.
And then I know Darwin again touched on this a little bit. But for those just joining us again, can you describe the introduction process with the rest of the colony?
Yeah. So once chick's doing really well on its own and it's getting more of that juvenile feathering and everything, we'll be moving into our exhibit. We will have a section cordoned off so chick is safe and is able to hear, smell, and talk to all the other penguins and get to know everybody from a safe distance. You want to make sure that there's no pressure territory-wise, since our penguins are quite territorial. And then for a chick just learning how to be a penguin, it's going to do a lot of social cues and things like that. So it's going to kind of start with that safe distance, kind of like social distancing, and then we'll move into the point where we can introduce a couple of our really calm penguins for them to get a little more close-up interaction with an adult penguin first before we actually let it out into the colony when it can swim and navigate around the exhibit safely.
And then also, a lot of people are asking, how long do penguins live for in human care?
Okay, so we touched on this again earlier, but natural habitat, since they are the most endangered penguin species in the world, that's actually a pretty low number. It's probably around 8 to 10 years right now. If they're doing really well, can feed themselves, don't get sick, aren't predated upon, and all like that. Professional care, obviously we've got great healthcare benefits. We have restaurant quality food that's hand delivered. We've got a built-in maid service that comes in every day. So these kids are doing really, really well, and we're able to extend that natural lifespan pretty easily into their 30s. As Darwin said, the oldest recorded African penguin is 44.
And then a lot of people are also asking if Zion takes vitamins.
It does, yes. So in that fish milkshake, it's great for hydration, it's great for nutrition. We're able to put it in a really nice blender, mix it all up perfectly so that we're able to get that as much nutrition to that chick as possible. And then as we're moving down to the fish fillets and things like that, we're able to actually break up some vitamins and different things like that into the fish. So it's receiving it the same way that our penguins do. When it's vitamin day, we actually can just hide it in the fish, since these guys do swallow their entire diet rather than chewing their food. It's a quick, easy way to get that delivered to them.
And then Ashley, you mind describing what this little
Sure.
habitat is?
We've got our little cart here with rocks for Zion, and I actually was holding, but I decided to move it to the cart just because my body was a little warm and I didn't want him to get too hot. So we have this nice rocky cart that kind of mimics the substrate they would be on in the wild at this point. And then if you look, we've got a little stuffed penguin in there. So it looks cute, but that also is kind of like our surrogate parent. So it's like a teddy bear almost. It just adds a little layer of safety. It gives the chick something it can try to hide under or snuggle up to if it wants to, just like it would be with its parents in the nest.
And we also doubled the use of this little habitat for doing penguin encounters here at the aquarium. So we do bring birds out, and actually Zion will be one of the birds. Part of this hand-rearing process is to get them used to people. We obviously don't want a penguin stressed by everyday stuff, and doing so makes the stress level go way down, and that's really important to us, is to have a stress-free collection of animals. So we do our Backstage Penguin Pass program, which will start back up after our closure ends. And you might be able to visit this bird if you go on one of those programs under our Wild Encounter section. So that's another use for this habitat when we have our penguin encounters. It gives them a little safe place to be out in front of people.
And then, Darwin, I'm sure everyone wants to know, what does Zion feel like? Because he looks so fluffy.
Very velvety, extremely. The reason why this second natal down feather coat is like that is because it traps a layer of air between the skin and the outside to insulate the bird from extremes in temperature, be it too hot or too cold. Now, at this time, we're more concerned with the bird getting too warm. So we actually keep it in an air-conditioned room where it's nice and comfortable, about 65 degrees. Its first couple of weeks, we're actually warming the bird under a heat lamp and keeping its enclosure warm because its thermoregulatory system is not up to par yet. We do change our habitats and the temperatures for birds as we need to make them comfortable. If you go inside the exhibit right now, it's about 61 degrees Fahrenheit, really comfortable.
And then can you talk a little bit about how Zion is important as an ambassador for African penguins in the wild?
Absolutely. See, the African penguin, as I mentioned earlier, is struggling with some really severe problems. The main problem being disappearing food source, the Cape anchovy. Both human competition and climate change and pollution, all three of those things are playing a big role. The Cape anchovy makes up 80% of the African penguin's diet, but there are basically poachers that are coming in with industrialized fishing operations, and they don't obey the catch limits and seasons. They take what they want, and the fish can't spawn fast enough. So this leaves a lot of penguin colonies without enough food for themselves or to raise a family. Also, as the waters on the west coast of Africa warm up, the east side is actually cooler. The anchovies are now going to the east side to spawn. It's called an ecological trap because the penguins have learned that the west side is where they're supposed to go to find the anchovies. They get there, they don't find anything. So that's a climate change issue that is affecting the African penguin. All three of these things together, coupled with the history of guano harvesting for guano for fertilizer, which destroy their nesting cave habitats, also collecting their eggs for human consumption between about 1880 and 1940. About 13 million eggs were collected for that. That's 13 million chicks that never had a chance to hatch. And many oil and fuel spills throughout the last century. Adding those up, the penguin population has gone from about 3.2 million in 1900 down a fewer than 20,000 breeding pairs as of last September of last year. That's just a little over 1% of the original population left. So this species, penguins are high-profile species. Everybody loves a penguin, but a lot of people don't realize the tough times they're facing in the wild. And the Association for Zoos and Aquariums institutions such as Audubon Aquarium, we work hand in hand with agencies down in South Africa, like the South African Foundation for Conservation of Coastal Birds and other groups, to protect these penguins and actually do a hands-on field ecology to ensure their future.
All right, awesome. All right, well, thank everyone for joining us. Zion is so cute. Till next time, guys.